Well, hey everybody. It's the third day of April 2025. I'm Jan Erickson and this is As Above, So Below. Well, we're still in retrograde here until when? Let's see, when is retrograde over here? Mercury retrograde goes direct on, let's see, I need to go up here. Well, let's see, it goes direct tomorrow. No, no, next week, next Monday, I guess. Yeah, the 7th. All right. Yeah, today's the 3rd. So yeah, it goes direct on the 7th. Um, and let's see, today's Thursday, so that's Sunday, Monday. Okay, it looks like it's Monday. Goes direct on Monday. So we're still in Mercury retrograde. So I don't know. I've had to reboot my computer like almost every time because the screen gets really jumpy. So anyway, I had to do that. I'd already drawn the runes. I was about ready to draw the cards. I've already shuffled. I'll do a little bit more here. But let's just talk about the runes that I have. I drew Isa to start us out here. Isa is one of the Norn runes, and so as I've said before in these readings, whenever I draw Hagalaz, Nathis, or Isa, they have a little more weight to me anyway, given that they're the Norn runes, than the other runes have. So even more so than maybe even the major arcana, I sort of liken the Elder Futhark to that in the tarot, where you're talking about soul archetype issues. But this is, I look at the Norns as more like the genesis of the rest of it because they gave the runes to Odin, and so reportedly anyway. But Isa is going to be about being the 11th rune. You're talking the master number 11 of awakening and enlightenment. So you're really aligning yourself in spirit and higher awareness and higher consciousness. It's also about will contraction or focus. It's about becoming. It's about the stillness within. And, you know, anytime you're in a bunch of trauma or drama, either one, it's best to do that. It's best to go within and be still. Because sometimes you don't really understand the bigger picture until you do that. You draw down higher awareness and you let that guide how you see the situation instead of letting fear take over, the ego take over. And so Isa can also be used in spells to stop unwanted behavior. It just brings everything to its still point. And again, you know, the whole idea of just the single line down, it's that line of spirit focusing into form. And that's the mindset you need to have right now today in terms of what this reading is going to end up being about. And I don't know yet because we don't have the cards. I drew, when I threw the Geomancy runes down, I came up with Albus. Now, Albus is the complement of Rubius. Rubius would be a misuse of force and things that are out of control and having a real strong personal agenda. Now, very, very ego-based, whereas Albus is more the sage or the mentor or the person with clarity, higher awareness, higher consciousness. So you're really looking at two very extreme ends of that type of continuum with Albus. And so aligning very well with Isa, from the alignment in spirit, you draw down that higher wisdom that you're going to need to deal with whatever this reading is going to be about here today. So let's just go ahead and I'll just shuffle just a little bit here and I'll cut the deck and I'll pull 3 cards to get the details of all of this, to see where this is actually going. Well, we have 2 cards from the major arcana, the Emperor and Judgment, and then we also have the 2 of Cups. Let's go ahead first before I read this, though, and take a look at how I want to arrange this. We said, and honestly, I'm going to do the numerology 2 different ways. I'll do it with the 11 first as part of the numerology, and then I'm going to pull it out and just do the other. So 11 plus 4 plus 20 plus 2 is 37, which is 3 and 7 is 10. 10 and 1 and 0 is 1. So that's going to be one way I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to do it a separate way, 11. And I'll just do like a slash. And when I do the write-up, the reading notes on the blog over at Stepping Aside, I'm going to do the, I'll show the numerology in two different ways. Whenever I have a master number here, like 11 and 22, or 33, I like to leave them alone. But 11 and 22 in particular, and not include them in the whole numerology, since they resonate much higher in a higher vibratory way than the other numbers do. So we have an 11, and then, okay, where did my deal go? There it is. So we'll leave the 11 out, and we'll say 4 plus 20 plus 2. Oh, wait, that didn't come out right. Let me clear. Maybe I didn't clear it enough. So we got 4 plus 20 plus 2, which is 26. And so that's going to be 8. 2 and 6 is 8. 8's going to be about strength, which would align well with both Isa and Albus. And the 11 being the higher clarity or awakening or enlightenment or illumination. So ultimately, I think that's how I'm going to do the numerology. Otherwise it's 1, which is new beginnings, talent, leadership, things like that, the self. But here with the 8, you're talking, again, inner strength, you're talking, or strength, also leadership again, and material recognition and approval, things like that, greater harmony. A higher level of harmony, higher vibratory level of harmony. But again, I think that when you awaken to the idea that you need to have some strength to get through things, you align in spirit, you draw from that type of beginning, if you will, that stillness, that alignment in higher consciousness or spirit. We have. I think I'm just gonna leave them in the order that I drew the cards. I don't think I'm gonna bookend the. I don't think so. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave the 2 at the end. Sometimes when I get 2 major arcana cards, I'll put them on either side of something in the center because it makes sense to do it. But right now, I don't know. Here we have the Emperor. Now, this is the card 4 from the major arcana. The Emperor. When we think of the 4, we think of something that is the foundation or structure or the boundaries, or you can also think of it as organization and excuse me, pragmatism. I don't have any tea in here today, so I'm losing my voice already. But you're looking at grounding. The problem with the Emperor, though, it's obviously masculine energy, maybe the father principle. You see strength with the ram's heads here, a very Aries type of a card. You see some mountains in the background, which I look at them as mountains. They're very interesting in the background, different colors there. So he's also in battle attire because you can see his boots there. And if you look really closely, he's also wearing the gloves of the warrior. So I mean, he can be a warrior, he can be successful, he can be ambitious, disciplined, but obviously in authority. But right now, we're looking at a situation collectively where things are very unsure. And with the Emperor. The Emperor is sitting there on his throne, and he's making decisions that are actually becoming harmful. And so we'll just set him aside because the next card is Judgment. And here it's the 20th card of the major arcana. You're looking at the angel Gabriel blowing his horn. He's got the flag here with the cross that you see also you see it on the High Priestess card. I think there's another card you see it with as well. but the pennant is, he's blowing his horn and trying to right everything and trying to make everything in balance again. Because, you know, you come into life and things get out of balance. Ego takes over and you begin reacting. Instead of being the soul that you are, you react as the person you've become. And which is a very different situation. He's blowing his horn, everyone's standing up in their coffins, raising their hands in supplication to spirit, to the angel's message of renewal and redemption. But you're talking about rebirth and awakening, which again aligns very well with the overall numerology of 11 here, or in the overall numerology with the 11, also with Isa being the 11th card. You're talking about transformation and seeing the bigger picture. And with the Emperor, you can either look at him as the authority that you have or the authority that's imposing things on you at this point. With Judgment, I don't like the word judgment. There's some other decks, Hermetic decks, and also pagan decks where it might be called Aeon, Aeon. It also could be called rebirth. But at the same time, you're talking about higher awareness. You're talking about remembering who you are as a soul and seeing things from that perspective, that this is a learning situation, and you have to use the authority and the strength within with the Emperor to try to understand things from that perspective as well. But the angel Gabriel, though, is there to blow his horn and awaken people to what's really going on. And if you want to look at it in terms of what's really going on with the Emperor, you might be able to do that with this reading, and to understand the bigger picture of it. To understand that sometimes we need things that are so bad that they get our attention to make us understand what we really need to be doing. And so you could probably look at that in its most simplest way there, with that type of an interpretation here. There's no wisdom to what's going on right now other than maybe higher wisdom, getting us all, again, to wake up and to realize the truth of things. There's just been so much of the time where in the past few years where, you know, the past, say 8 years, 9 years, whatever it's been, where, you know, people are left scratching their heads and they don't know what's really going on here. What's at the heart of this? And at this juncture, I think it's pretty clear who's actually in control. And it's not, you know, the President of the United States. It's somebody else or a group of someone else's. And so he's being allowed to make a mess. And if you align in higher consciousness, if you align in that higher wisdom, you may be able to understand that. It's that we need to go through some things before we come out on the other side of it, in a way that we understand the truth, in a way that we can actually truly heal from all of this and come together in the kind of healing and unity talked about in the Two of Cups here. You see the man and the woman there. The man is taking a step toward the woman and also reaching toward her. They're both extending chalices toward one another. You see the caduceus and the winged lion there, the winged lion's head. So there's an intention about this card. 2 is about balance and love and healing and decisions. And so they've made the decision to heal. Whatever was wrong, whatever guardrails that fell apart that brought us to this point of where we are today, and where we're going to be here going forward. It's either by the patriarchal attitude of the Emperor, and not just in terms of one individual, but the idea of patriarchy that's trying to impose its stranglehold on the world again. It's like it's the last ditch effort to do that, to preserve that in our lives. You could look at the Emperor and the energy of that when ill dignified, taking their ambition and throwing reason out the window, and have what their actions only be fueled by some bizarre and psychopathic type of ambition that they have to change the order of things instead of having things in order, watching the boundaries fall away, and a restructuring to where authoritarian control is the at the heart of all of it, really. You got a lot of different players in the game. If you had a whiteboard, you would have all these different influences on this center patriarchal type of energy that's at work. But again, with judgment, you're looking at, if you reduce 20 to 2, then you're looking at the same 2 numerology of the 2 of Cups. And so, I mean, theoretically, I could start with that, put the Emperor in the center, but I think that we need to have judgment where it is, because we need to wake up and understand what's happening here with this guy or with this type of energy. I'm not so comfortable talking about it in terms of an individual, although certainly we can. But which individual? Is it the president's actual overlord, the one, the country and the leader of that country that's been in control of him for decades? What is it? I mean, what are we really looking at here in terms of the emperor? And I think that you have somebody who's going to make some decisions that he does not have the ability really legally to do, but yet here we are. And then we're going to have to wake up and understand what it's all about and face some things, especially those people that help put the person into power. They're going to have to face up to some things that they missed, that they either missed just because they missed it, or they knew but they decided that it was going to be a different outcome, and now we know that it's not going to be. That the upheaval is beginning, and the upheaval will do some significant damage. But at the end of the day, see, we have to come back together. If you watched Cory Booker's speech, his filibuster, or whatever you want to call that, this wasn't a filibuster in the true sense, but he spoke for over 25 hours, and other people helped out, and that was great. But he kept saying again and again through it, it's not about right versus left. It's about right versus wrong. And so the right versus left has been a narrative that's been placed on everybody as a distraction from what really this is all about. And so when you talk about Isa, you're talking about drawing that awareness down from Spirit. Spirit sees all. Spirit understands what's going on. And maybe this is the final moment for souls in this collective, having this collective experience on this planet, to finally get it, to finally understand what has really been the true issue all along. And it's really about good versus evil, not about right versus left. And yet that's been the story, that's been the narrative that's been foisted, if you will, upon people, instead of understanding that there's this demonic force out there that wants to control. You've got spirit and you've got ego, spirit or the demonic force. All right. And so you have this demonic force that's really taken hold here, while the rest of us look on and go, oh, isn't this interesting? How am I going to pay my bills? When they've taken it all away, right? And you've got a core group of people that are doing this, right? That are assisting the demonic force, have become part of the demonic force. And so when you look at Isa, you're looking at that focus into form, that vortex of the soul coming in and infusing itself into and creating the bodies essentially that it needs to have to do that with. All of the souls doing that. But we get tripped up along the way because there's that whole veil of forgetting. And we forget that we're souls, and we forget that this is some higher purpose, that is that doesn't have any, the soul doesn't see it the way those of us that are experiencing it here will see it, because we'll react in fear, we'll react in all over the place, right? And maybe be easily drawn into the narrative that other people want us to think. And if Isa says anything at all, is to do your own alignment in who you really are, so that you can understand what this is all about and understand the higher purpose of it. It's like people talk all the time about ascension. Well, ascension, can mean the physical ascension, where the body dies and the soul leaves and, and goes back to the collective and ascends, right? But there's another kind of ascension. And it's the awakening here, while still here, to understand the truth of everything. That we are always going to be one with one another. We are always have the opportunity to heal at any time. We just have to make the decision to do it. You see how they're out away. Here's your dual line of demarcation here, which some cards in the Rider-Waite have, that separate out what's happening from what's behind. So clearly there was something happening at home and that needed to be healed, and so they got away from it, got away from the drama, got away from the turmoil, got away from the hurt, if that's what was going on. And they stepped away, and the masculine side of self, or the projective side of self, initiated the healing process with the receptive side of self. So you could look at this thoroughly esoterically and spiritually and soul-wise, and think about the polarity within, and a rebalancing and a healing of that, where some people get too far out one way or too far out the other way, and they got to come back to the middle with themselves, so that they see things in a different type of alignment or a different type of balance, which Isa talks about. And again, paired with Albus, you're looking at that higher wisdom that you need to be able to do that with. You stay down in the muck of the ego, down in the muck of reaction, and you can't do that. So whether this is talking about what's happening in our country or in the world today, it could be. But if it's not, and it's just simply that you're dealing with a situation, you need to get quiet. You need to become still. You need to let go of the reaction, let go of the fear, let go of what you're watching, and go within and allow higher awareness to inform how you see it. It may be something that you need to awaken to, you need to deal with judgment, or you need to look at your own self and what others are doing in the situation, and see it from a higher perspective again. And then make that decision either to heal what's going on within you so that you see things in a better way, or, it could mean that you have to heal something with somebody else, and to make that decision to do that. And it's the initiating side of self, or the masculine or projective side of self, that's going to make that determination. Maybe you're the one that's going to start that conversation with the other person or persons that you're having the issue with. So it could be something very, very personal today for you. But if not, then trying the emperor, it's like, well, but there could have been something where the exercise of authority, or or some shift in the boundaries, or some shift in the structure, the foundation, the grounding of your life has changed, and either you've done that or somebody else has done that. And people need to awaken to the impact of it with judgment. Everyone does. And to find a different balance, to transform your awareness into and awaken and renew, have the renewal and rebirth of who you actually are within it. And again, sometimes things happen in relationships where, you look back on it and you say, well, it was really awful at the time, but it brought out all this stuff that needed to be looked at, and with a more critical eye, and one that is not going to react in ego and cast blame, and because you get there, and the conversation's over for a while because you're too much in that versus trying to find a solution or to have a shared understanding of something, right? So however this is for you today, however you want to see this, it can be both, societal, it can be just personal, but something has happened where, again, the emperor energy could be aligned with the masculine side of self here, or this person here who's taking the initiative to do what needs to be done here, and to bring and to come back together in harmony and love. On the other hand, the emperor could be causing all the problems. So if it's a personal issue, maybe the exercise of authority is inappropriate. Maybe you're trying to, or someone else is trying to make other people do what they want them to do, and it's not realistic. Trying to boss people around when you don't have the authority to do that, right? Deciding for your partner how things are going to be without even talking to them. And so then that brings out a problem. Then you have to awaken to what the real truth of it is, and you have to transform the situation, into something where both parties or the group understands, what, we're not going to behave this way. We're going to come together collaboratively in harmony and love and joy and fellowship and, in peace and harmony, with the Two of Cups. So it could be something like that. But otherwise, if this is what's going on and impacting so many people, well, everybody today, even if you're just looking at your 401k crashing a bit. But trust me, not everybody has a 401k. People who don't are going to be really impacted by all of this. So it just feels bigger, although a personal issue can feel really, really big, and it is, But having two major arcana cards here, and then having Issa and Albus, I think that they are defining this whole thing bigger. And this could be talking about the impact of the new administration, the impact that new administration is going to have not only on this country but on the world, and it's not going to be good. But on the other hand, it shows you who you can trust. It shows you that you can't trust what's going on now, that this is not going to take us in a good place, and so now So you awaken. Things are becoming illuminated. You're by higher consciousness. And just by the situation itself, it becomes plain as day that we did the wrong thing. Those people who voted to put this guy in, you did the wrong thing. And other countries will be looking at the fact that it's always been a house of cards anyway, that the least bit of wind could blow down. So we've been living under an illusion anyway of safety and security. Because as you can see, in 10 weeks' time, it can all be blown out of the water, right? It doesn't take much time. It can take one thing. One thing could do it. And this may be the one thing. And so however this resonates for you, the important part is to try not to panic, even though there are probably situations that are going to happen in people's lives that are going to cause you to panic, because you're not going to know what to do. But remember that there's a greater message here. Sometimes you need the damage to understand what you really, what's really real, what you want versus what you don't want, and or what you thought was true versus what's really true. And so if we can all move in that direction of understanding, of a higher understanding over all this, then we can make the decisions we need to make so that these things don't happen again. But this will, this isn't going to be over with tomorrow. It's not. The damage that's going to get done may be kind of undoable for a while. You're not going to be able to fix it for a while, especially if these same people remain in power. But once you know who the enemy is, it becomes a little easier to then organize and focus and figure out what you're going to do about it. Even if it's just something small in your own life, it all adds up to something where the shift in power that needs to happen can do that, right? So we'll see. Again, with the numerology for the reading, if separating out, you can look at the 1 as new beginnings, where we see things differently now, where we finally see the truth. Well, those that didn't finally see the truth, the rest of us did and do, and this was anticipated. I mean, we knew this is going to happen. And sure enough, it did. And Lord only knows what else is going to happen in the meantime. So, because I don't think this is the end. I think there's going to be more. And, the whole shock and awe of it, if you will, is shocking all of us into awakening, to understand what's really happening here, instead of the promises that were made, the destruction that's being delivered. And so we need to understand it and use our inner authority to awaken to the truth, and to not be hoodwinked any longer by what people say that, it sounds good to us. It seems to be addressing our needs, when in fact it's not. It was just one big lie. And so again, instead of the right versus left, this is about, authoritarianism versus harmony and unity, and elevating society and doing positive things for the world. In this case, it's just trying to do for the billionaire class. Well, that's not going to work, and we all know that, right? But it's going to be our truth for a while here. And we're going to have to sit with it and try to negotiate and figure out how we're going to work around this, and how we're going to stay safe and well, and for some people that may be next to impossible. So hopefully that's, the awakening. Instead of the golden age, it's the great awakening, isn't it? Where we awaken to the truth of the lies that have been told for so long, and the narrative that we've all been expected to live within, and the us versus them mentality, keeping each of us at each other's throats, depending on what side of the coin you're on. It's like, oh, one side's the devil. No, it's the other side that's the devil. No, it's the authoritarianism that is the devil, and that's the demonic force. It's not you, it's not me. It's because we're us, and it is going to be up to us to contend with all of this. So, now we're seeing all of it and begin, and but sadly for them, there's an awakening that's occurring. And I think that the reading is talking about it, that there's an awakening that's occurring. It's going to take the strength that we have together in staying in harmony with one another to deal with all of this. And maybe they won't see us coming, Maybe they won't expect this. Maybe they expect us all to lay down like sheep. Well, again, with Isa, that's saying no. Just because you get still, just because you're thinking, just because you're trying to understand the big picture, doesn't mean you're accepting what's going on. It means that you're planning, and you're figuring it out, and you're understanding the truth of who these folks are. So, again, either the emperor is talking about the patriarchal authority, authoritarian, demonic force out there that's wanting to control the world, that we need to awaken to that truth, and then we need to come back and heal. I think that's, if we're looking at this from a society standpoint or a world standpoint, I think that's how I want to see this. But otherwise, if it's just something personal going on, then, and there's some drama going on, you need to figure it out. You need to know what the truth is, and you need to go within to do that, and assert your own authority to awaken to what the truth is, and not be afraid of it, no matter what it is, even if you're part of the problem. And make the decision to heal, make the decision to come back in harmony and love and peace, so that you can move on, right? Together. So, anyway, that's it for a Thursday. Thanks for watching, and we're in this together, all of us, and at some point that's going to become clear for everyone. And at that point, we can, awaken that sleeping giant that they don't see coming, and throw the bums out, essentially, and stop all of this from happening. So, anyhow, try to have a good weekend. I know that it may not be difficult. Some families are going to be coming together and having some very difficult conversations here going forward. There'll be some that this, it's not going to mean a whole lot to them, they've got a whole lot of money. But if you don't, like most of us, there's going to be some things that, some difficult conversations around the kitchen table, or in the living room, trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now when it becomes harder to make ends meet, and maybe next to impossible for some people. So, but in any event, come back again on Monday if you will. I'd love you to do that, and join me again for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, especially now, and blessed be.